Incorporating the climate change adaptation things that we are talking about, because there have been wonderful things that we've talked about, and I've attended a few other conferences, and they're amazing things that are being said and discussed. But in the developing countries, what I've noticed is for somehow integrating them into the plans and all that you all are doing are not very effective. And I think it's times like the disaster conflict areas where you can, because there at that point in time you have the communities that are giving you all the attention and they're willing for the change that needs to come through. So that's just a suggestion.
I would say just in summary that after the earthquake in Pakistan, the EERA, Earthquake Reconstruction Authority, had an environmental section, and because I was personally involved in it, I know that IUCN and WWF worked very hard to influence the government in that area. So Pakistan, in certain ways, is actually a model compared to some of the other countries where I've worked, where the Ministry of Environment doesn't even show up when they're invited to a meeting by the president. So, different countries have different things on that. But we don't want to, we're coming into lunch, which I know nobody wants to have lunch, but.
Very, very quickly, one thing that this raises, though, that I think is really important to think about, as much as DRR activities, disaster risk reduction activities, and adaptation activities can look similar, they're not exactly the same, right? They don't necessarily align. What you have to do in terms of recovery to reduction into some sort of adaptation for sustainable development, these can be very different things. And folks aren't spending much time talking about that. So I think there needs to be real effort to align these things across that whole portfolio. And I don't think you'll ever get them perfectly aligned, but we're certainly trying to work toward this. This is a conversation we're actually having internally at AID right now.
And our host, a word from our host.
Yes. Did anyone in here attend the insurance concurrent session? One, okay. Those of you who are interested in disaster stuff, the PowerPoints for the insurance session will be up on the IAI website. And I found it very interesting because of the laboratory work that the insurance industry is undertaking. It's more, it's global, but it has to do with risk with large projects. So I'd recommend that you look at those PowerPoints. There's some pretty amazing things on them, in that session.
One final question from anyone? Efficient use of resources. If you can just give it quick, because I can hear the struggle.
Thanks. Yeah, just two quick comments. The discussion earlier about climate change is not a sector. Absolutely, it's not a sector. There's a lot of learning there from the State of Environment reporting processes, DIPSO, the drivers, impacts, pressures, states and response, and the pressures. Climate change is a pressure on all sectors, and that could usually be picked up here. And then just building back better, absolutely, and one of the ways to do that is to use ecosystem-based adaptation, biodiversity buffers, and so on. And very often, building back better reverts to utilizing the technologies which people utilized previously for mitigating against floods, etc., rather than going back to the sort of hard infrastructure technologies which are introduced very often by development agencies.
Thank you very much. Some good points. I'd like to thank you all for having come this morning and staying a few minutes into your lunch. There are summaries of the 3 presentations on the back table there with our names on them if you want a copy. And I believe I will make all of the materials available at some point in the future. It'll go up, yeah. And so thank you very much.